and Małgosia Bartosik, please join me here. Małgosia will talk about wind energy. So we are now going to the big topic of wind as one of renewables, and it's indeed at the backbone of the transition. Małgosia is working for WindEurope for quite some time already. She started in 2004 and made all the way from intern to the very top. She's a deputy CEO at the moment, responsible for all businesses, operations, membership strategy. And she was also announced one of the Wind's 100 most influential female power brokers and deal makers and influencers in a World About Wind report. Then again, the Research magazine has proclaimed Małgosia as one of the 40 under 40 and acknowledged her contributions in the topic. And she's also a board member for Global Wind Energy Council, which is, I think, quite important, a resource platform of offshore wind for kids, which is quite interesting. And this is an initiative aiming at offshore education for children. So quite a wide portfolio. And now let's go to the wind energy. Floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me and for this very nice introduction. I will try to, I know that we are running out of time, so I will try to go fast through the slides, and I hope that we have some time maybe over lunch to discuss in case you have any questions. I'm not a scientist, so please excuse me, my presentation is not going to be very scientific. It's much more linking to what Katarzyna was talking about, so thank you very much for setting the scene. I'm coming from WindEurope. WindEurope is actually, we have the office here on the 8th floor. It's one of the largest associations in Brussels representing the wind industry. When we talk about wind industry, it includes all the different players from the whole supply chain. So basically from the moment you think about installing a wind farm, what about regulation around the financing, technology, science. So we have a big academic community also that is a part of our association. There's around 500 members that are part of our organization. We are working also with other industries. Energy right now is going really across all the different sectors. So we are working. We have very close collaborations with. We established actually the Renewable Hydrogen Coalition. To your point about hydrogen, so we're working about first promoting direct electrification, meaning that it's, at the moment it's much more efficient, effective to source directly from a wind farm rather than going through the electrolysis and producing hydrogen. So we're promoting that message and working together with the European Commission, with other stakeholders to make sure that the sectors that cannot be actually electrified, hard to abate as we call it, they can then use the hydrogen, and then to make sure that the hydrogen is green and not the whole rainbow of different colors. We're also working with corporates to ensure that the large corporates, they also have a role in the energy transition. They're very interested in sourcing green power. I will have one more slide to give a bit more details about it. And we have partnerships with, again, with steel, with cement, with paper industry, with copper. We're sourcing copper cables. We are, of course, we have our turbines and foundations with cement, with steel, with aluminum. We're working with all of them to make sure that we have that our business is done in the most sustainable way. Also talking to them about green coal, green steel, green aluminum, for example. How can we make that happen together? Energy, you probably know that, is the one to blame for the greenhouse emissions. 75% of greenhouse emissions are coming from the energy sector, and it's the energy that is used in buildings, in transport, and the energy that is used in industrial processes. What can we do? What can we do about the greenhouse emissions? Well, to reduce them, we need to use as much as we can the clean green electricity coming from wind, coming from solar. We need to move into the electric world, meaning we need to electrify whatever we can, so we can actually use that green electricity that we produce. And we need to make sure that we look at the demand side, on the consumption side, and we use the energy as efficiently as possible. Katarzyna was talking about the regulation. EU has very ambitious regulations. So there's this net zero target by 2050, and it really requires efforts across all the different sectors. Yeah? So it's really our joint effort, it's our joint job to make it happen. We're not going to do a lot to do it if we work in silos. Energy is becoming much more electric right now. There are also very high targets there. So at the moment, electricity is around 25% of the whole energy mix. But by 2050, there is the ambition to have more than 57% coming from in the energy mix that is going to be electricity. And if you combine it with hydrogen and e-gases, then it's more than almost 80% that could be electrified. Most of the technologies that we currently, most of the sectors that are the most greenhouse emissions heavy, they can be electrified right now. Technologies, of course, it's not always the most. Sometimes it's costly. It's sometimes not the most cost efficient. But in terms of the technology, if you look at those sectors that are the heaviest emitters, they can be, most of them, they can be electrified. So 76% of Europe's industry can be electrified. Where is the electricity coming from right now? So you see that at the moment, of course, solar, and so at the moment, the mix is very varied. If you look at the first 20 different lines, yeah. But if you look at 2050, the jump is huge. Yeah. So by 2050, we will. The prediction is, and that's not our prediction, but the International Energy Agency, it's almost 90%, nearly 90%. By 2050 is going to come from wind and solar, complemented with a small part coming from nuclear and hydrogen. In terms of wind, if we look at wind, the IEA, also some of the Commission scenarios, it really estimated shortly after 2023, wind will be the main source of the electricity in the EU. But where are we now? Now it's around 70% of Europe's electricity demand that is coming from wind. And here you see the blue bar is the wind power capacity installed. And then the red bar is what is the share in the electricity demand. And if we break it down to onshore, it's 14% of Europe's electricity demand. And offshore, it's only 3%. And I want to show the slide because there's such a huge buzz about offshore. Yes, it's great, and it's going to be a huge generation of clean power. But right now, it is onshore that is really bringing the bulk of it. And it will be. It's not only for now, but it actually will continue to be the onshore generation that is going to bring most of the power. Governments are, especially with the current policy, the context, with the war in Ukraine, there is a huge ambition from the governments around the EU to generate more renewables, and wind is very high on the ambition agenda. If we combine what the governments right now, what they are pledging for, is 165 gigawatts. Of offshore by 2030. If you remember, probably not, but the slides that I was showing before about offshore, we currently have 31 gigawatts. Yeah? So from 31 gigawatts that we currently have to 165 by 2030. This is a huge challenge. The numbers, I showed you the numbers, but also the challenging ambition, the challenging targets. We are not building enough, even though the industry is growing, there are new developments happening, but it's not enough to meet the targets and to meet the ambition that the EU has. And the problem is that if we are lagging behind, if you see the years 2023, 2024, 2025, we are lagging behind, but then it's accumulating, right? So we will come to a point when we are missing a really big capacity and we'll be rushing to develop it. This might be simply impossible to do, especially with the problems that we have with supply chain that I will tell you about in a moment. What are the main problems? The main problem is permitting. And when we talk about permitting, it's about administrative barriers. It's papers. It's really long processes. It's even a small wind farm can, with a community support, with municipality that really wants to develop it, it can take 12 years. So, yeah. If we don't manage to simplify the permitting processes, we can forget about all those targets. We can forget about meeting any of the ambitious numbers. When we ask the Europeans whether they like wind or what they think about it, most of the Europeans, even in countries like Poland, that is not very famous for wind lobbying, there is 75% that shows support to wind farms, and those numbers are actually from people that live next to it. And we have much more actually support within people within communities that are used to work to live near wind farms, that actually those that fear to have a wind farm. And why is that? Of course, we have legacy of some cowboys made projects. Yeah, there were lots of projects, not only in countries like Poland, but in many places. There were projects basically developed by a local priest, a local mayor, and a local businessman. They would put some wind turbines very close to houses without any communication with the local communities. And we are now basically, we have a big legacy of people are worried, people don't know what it is about, people basically don't want to have wind farms in their backyards. Yeah, but if the projects are done in the right way, communities can benefit hugely from it. Here are just some examples what the communities can get. It should be part of a very initial discussion between the developer and the local community. All the questions here should be addressed, and the model should be worked out. How this would work best for the community. If there are different concepts, they can benefit from cheaper electricity. They can have, of course, the municipality gets a lot of financial injection to the municipality in terms of paying taxes, paying the lease for the land. But it has to be done in a fair way. It can also not be done that is only the three neighbors that are getting benefits. The whole municipality is running with a wind farm, but they don't really see that they get any benefits. Wind can also revitalize, wind investments can revitalize areas like industrial areas. For example, Poland, here's a picture I think from Hull in the UK. So the industrial area, shipyards, they can be really revitalized with some investments of wind sector, factories. We need a huge number of factories in order to deliver all the turbines that we need. We need a huge number of people, some like you, the scientists, the technical people, with huge amounts really of investments in different type of resources in order to really deliver on the numbers that we were talking about before. I have some slides here also to put the message across, because that's also one of the reasons why we have problems with permitting. Birds. Yeah, people are talking about wind turbines. Yeah, birds and killing birds. It's true, the turbines kill birds, but the new technology also allows to protect birds that are flying into wind turbines. The blades can change, they can rotate. It can the environmental assessments also need to be done in a way that we actually already by putting turbines in the right way, we are mitigating the problem with the birds. But really, no one is really talking about cuts, about collisions with buildings, about poisoning, neighbors not liking the other neighbor cuts, the electrical lines, and those are really the main causes for deaths. And wind is really tiny part of that. And but even so, we do take it very seriously as an industry, and we are developing a lot of technologies to make sure that the turbines are harmless to the birds populations. What is the reason why I'm showing this slide is because there is no, that when there is a wind farm built in a municipality, there is the biggest opponents that we have is some sort of a local lawyer that comes to the community and says, hey guys, you know that you can actually get a lot of money delays with this wind farm. If we are going to make a cruise if we're going to make a legal case and we can use the birds directly. Yeah? So they're using basically, in many cases, this is the problem that is really delaying the projects. And if you combine it with this huge administrative process for permitting, it's taking us ages sometimes to develop projects. People fear also that it's huge. The technology is getting bigger and bigger, and it is going to be very disruptive in terms of the landscape. This is offshore, and offshore, it's true that the turbines are getting really big. But also, if you look at it, if you look at this picture, it shows that they are getting much bigger, but they can also be placed much farther from the shore. Yeah? So if you put them like 20 miles from the shore, if you're on the beach, you don't see it. Yeah? So that's how the technology develops. Onshore, we can't do turbines that are much bigger than what they currently are, because you have to imagine that they have to be transported somehow. We can't have the blades. So, we're going through to a small rural area through the local road. It's simply impossible to make the turbines much bigger than they currently are. There are also lots of questions also about what is happening with the old wind farms. And you will see some pictures like this that are supposed to basically scare people. So what is happening now? The old wind farms that are indeed coming to the end of their life cycle, they can be either repowered, and repower is great because the technology has moved so far that here's the example of one wind farm in Malpica in Galicia in Spain. So the 23 years old wind farm, there were 69 turbines. They were replaced by 7, and they doubled the output of electricity. And that's how the technology has changed. So if you think about what we're going to do with those turbines, so first of all, we can repower them and create much more electricity, but we can also lifetime extend. And when we have to basically put the turbines down, there are many creative ideas what we can do with it. There are several companies that are doing this sort of activities. They are basically creating very nice playgrounds for kids using the old elements of old. We need to remember that the turbines the material that is used for wind turbines is very weather resistant. Yeah? So it's basically the erosion or any type of problem that we would see often when we go to playgrounds with our kids. This doesn't happen really with this type of equipment. Yeah? Here's a Polish company actually doing this type of things. We have some of those benches in our office on the 8th floor. If anyone would like to come and see, they are really the creativity is amazing. What you can do in order to recycle and upcycle the old turbines. Great. In order to make the developments, it's not only about building more wind farms. We need to connect it to the grid. Yeah? If we build a wind farm, if it's not connected to the grid, it's not producing electricity. Yeah? So this is a huge challenge in front of us as well. The PPAs, that's what I've mentioned before about this, about the role of corporates. PPAs is power purchase agreements. There's basically the companies that are the big, large corporates that are buying the green electricity. And here I have a question for you. Do you know who's the biggest buyer of green electricity in the world? It's Amazon. Amazon is the biggest electricity buyer, clean electricity buyer. But then if you look at the first 10, look, it's also Google, it's BASF, it's Facebook, it's Meta. So we work with all those companies also to see how they could help us to speed up the transition and what role they could play to speed up the green transition. Supply chain is struggling. Yeah, I've mentioned that before. It's the industrial strategy that Katarzyna was mentioning. We have to do something about making sure that the green transition that is happening in Europe is done by the European company. Yeah. Already, if you look at the production that we have, there's a huge difference between where we were in 2001 and where we are now. Yeah. You see the percentage basically of business that is going outside Europe. And I'm not going to spend much more time on that, but you've mentioned it, and it's the industrial strategy and incentives for the European industry to stay in Europe, to produce in Europe is really important. Because investing in wind, it means investing in the European economy. It's, we have around 300 jobs now. We will, of course, with the growth, we will need many more people. It's a huge contribution to GDP, but also exports, investments, and a huge saving also to, of course, of the fossil fuels use. One new turbine is 10 million euros to the economy. 300,000 people in Europe now, 450 people that we need to work in wind by 2030 in order to deliver all the projects that we need. So if anyone is looking for change, I highly recommend. I strongly recommend. Where are they? Where people work? All over Europe. All those different dots here, basically the size of the different operations, different companies that are placed there. What is our license to operate? Happy coexistence. Happy coexistence with communities, happy coexistence with different sea users when we develop offshore. It has to be done in the right way. Otherwise, we can have the right policy, we can have the right technology, but we're not going to make it work. It has to be done with people. It has to be done with all of those that are basically that are co-living, coexisting with the technology. And the industry is very aware of it. Sustainability and biodiversity, same thing. We also need to make sure that we invest in research, in science, to understand what is the impact of the technology, for example, at sea, 20 years old technology at sea. So we need to really understand what is the impact of it and try to come up with very creative, scientific ideas to make sure that we are really mitigating any potential problem that might arise. You've mentioned market design. Again, I don't want to go to details, and this is really, I think that this is the last slide. It's very important that we have the right design of the market. Yeah, that we incentivize this type of investments in Europe. What is at the moment one of the big problems that we had with and as a cause of it, the supply chain is going really to the bottom. It's that the auctions, the prices that were awarded to wind. Were driven by race to the bottom. We're only only basically decided on the price level. Yeah? So basically, whoever came to the auction and say, I'm going to give you the lowest price, they would win the auction. Yeah. What we want to do, we want to incentivize all the other ideas that all the other incentives that we were discussing, that I was showing you. Working with communities, European supply chain, building factors here in Europe, coming up with creative ideas on joining different technologies like hybrid, solar, hydrogen, birds mitigation. And we would like to reward it, get a system that is going to reward this type of projects, giving them the premium, so that so you don't only compare it on the price level. Since last year, Europe has a new energy policy. The whole regulation policy has been really fast tracking, and we very committed to make this work and to deliver the new energy policy and to the ambition that the European Commission, that the International Energy Agency is envisaging. We strongly believe that wind can be the backbone, and especially in the current context, the renewables are the energy of freedom. And I would like to finish here with you with this message at the end. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. I think it was a bit of eye-opening for me in certain aspects, and it's indeed quite crucial, I think, to talk and to plan well, and to involve everybody interested and around the commune, the place where it's supposed to be, the people who are around, living around, and then the ones who can profit from that. And let's keep fingers crossed for current discussions in Poland about that, because yeah.
Yesterday was decided.
But
thank you.
But you would like to comment immediately?
Just one comment.
Yeah.
Maybe. Thanks a lot. And a lot of numbers are indeed have been done by the modeling team DG Klima of NR and International Energy Agency. Just maybe to add on one aspect, as permitting has been one of the key obstacles for wind offshore and onshore, the Commission has presented the Council regulation, which is based on Article 122 of the treaty, which actually refers to one of the oldest prerogatives of in the energy field, which is to grant for specific one-year measures to accelerate specific policy objectives where there are indeed either bottlenecks, like with regard to installation of the wind, or that are related to the security of supply issues, so both under the same article. And this has been adopted in the Council as Council regulation to allow for for relatively fast permitting. The measure is valid for 1 year and should be reviewed after 1 year.
So we have 700 meters at the end in Poland. So
Yes,
Which should be
a bit easier, but yeah, yeah. Let's see about that. Okay, so thanks again. Any questions to Małgosia? Yes, there's a one. There's a question there, please.
It's a key technology now. It's viable. I mean, you put a lot of elements under the viable technology. It is now the clock has dropped hugely. I remember back in 2015, I was running a campaign with the industry basically on like to be or not to be. And if we don't have the cost of offshore wind, this is a no-go. Huh? We are that was 2015. We are 8 years later, and this is one of the cheapest technologies offshore. Both onshore and offshore, they are the two cheapest technologies, most of the European. The capacity factor, the technology has also changed so much. The capacity factors are much higher. So actually, we have launched statistics this week, and our statistics are actually lowering the numbers. How much capacity we need? These numbers that have no statistics. We can lower them because actually we need less wind in the whole energy mix, because the capacity factors are much higher. You know, the modeling was done like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, they were calculating around 30% for offshore wind. It can be even 50%. It can be even 50%. It depends on the location, depends on the wind conditions. And especially if you look at you can go much farther in this. If you go much farther in the water, you basically have much better wind conditions. So it's a win-win for everyone. For the people that don't want to see basically wind process from the beach. And but also generates much more electricity, and the technology allows you also to so it is. The numbers are not so big now because it's a new technology. It's a very new technology. It's but the way the technology is changing, it's amazing.
It's not being very easy to do. I'm sure because birds, for example, so most of the horizon pollution. So they more or less promise that most of the building offshore for now. So now that's why I think the information, because I was thinking